what's up? We should talk about God today. Best believe that I be praying to him every day. God is good, God is great. A breakthrough chronicle brought to you today.
Welcome to Breakthrough Chronicles, real people, raw and resilient testimonies, where we bring you powerful, unfiltered stories from ordinary people who have experienced the extraordinary power of God. I'm your host, Anne-Marie Mora. Today, we have a truly powerful story to share. Our guest, who's also my niece, Sierra, faced what many would consider an impossible situation. A life-threatening diagnosis during what would have been one of the happiest times of her life, a pregnancy. But through it all, she found strength, hope, and courage that only faith can bring. Join us as Sierra takes us on her journey of overcoming fear and embracing faith in the face of uncertainty. This is a story you don't want to miss. So, hi, Sierra. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I'm excited because I know a lot of what went on with you, but I'm sure there's moments that you have that I don't know, and I'm excited to hear about those.
Yes.
Can you start by telling us a bit about your life before your pregnancy and how excited you were to become a mother?
Yes. So, my husband and I married in May of 2021. We always talked about raising children together, and once we were married, rightfully for our fathers, we decided to go ahead and try. We had a hard time with pregnancy, and ultimately we ended up seeing a specialist to help with that. And then we found out we were pregnant on December 6th of 2022. And so we were ecstatic. I praised our Father Yah for this miracle, and nothing could be better than this at that point. It's a feeling that you cannot put into words.
Wow, so she truly is a miracle because you were struggling to have her, you prayed, and then there she was, an answered prayer.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, so we were over heels when we found out. So that's all we talked about, all we looked forward to.
So when you found out you were pregnant, those early weeks, how did you feel? Was everything seeming to be going well? I know the morning sickness comes in that first trimester. How was it at the beginning?
Yes, everything was going good. I was sick constantly, and I couldn't drink or eat anything. And if I didn't have food on time, I would throw up. But if it's not something that I wanted, I would be sick with that too. So one of the things is I couldn't drink water. Every time I drank water, it was constant sickness.
Oh my gosh.
It was rough, but I was so grateful because I was able to carry this child. And, everybody tells you it gets better in the second trimester. So I was kind of pushing through to get to that 12-week mark so I wouldn't be sick anymore. So that's what I was looking forward to. But it was good. It was a good experience.
Good. So walk us through the day that you had a seizure. How far along were you in your pregnancy?
Yes. So I was looking forward to getting in the second trimester because everybody said, oh, it's better in your second trimester. And I was 8 weeks pregnant, and I was almost there. And it was on a Friday. I got off work early. I had a headache, or I started to get a headache. And I thought it was just a normal, headache. And then it started progressively getting worse. So I told my husband I'm going to go lay down for a little bit, take a nap. And then when I woke up, it was really throbbing. But when you're pregnant, you can only take so much medication and certain types of medication to help with pain. And the only thing I was able to take was Tylenol. And I think it was like the 650 milligrams or 550 milligrams, which was not the Tylenol strength one. So it basically wasn't doing anything for me. So at that point, the weekend went by and Sunday comes around and my parents came over to help me and my husband do chores because I physically couldn't do anything because I was in so much pain. And they made us dinner while my husband was getting other stuff done around the house, just trying to get things ready. We had a baby coming, so that's what we were focusing on. And my parents left. I went to go lay down, but I told my husband before I went to bed, and I said, if I wake up tomorrow morning for work and I still have a headache, I think we should go to the ER. That was when I didn't make it till the next morning because my husband, who's a night owl, he was up at 1:30 is when he heard some noises coming from our bedroom. So he jumped up and ran into the room, and that's when he saw me seizing. So he held me there on my side until he could run to go get his phone because he couldn't find my phone to call 911. And so they ended up coming, getting me, taking me to Eastern New Mexico Hospital here in Roswell. And they gave me a CT scan, and they found something on the CT scan, but they couldn't really get a clear picture of it. So they couldn't identify what it was on the CT scan. So that's when I started coming to, after my seizure. It takes a while before you can actually come to reality. And I just remember I heard the doctor say, we're going to fly you out to Lubbock. And that's when I was like, what is going on? But I still wasn't fully aware of what was happening. So, so the seizure kind of takes it out of you a lot. You don't really remember where you're at. You don't remember who you are. I remember landing in Lubbock and I was like, what's going on? But I felt fine because they gave me pain medication through an IV. So my headache was gone, and that's honestly the only thing I was like ecstatic about because I was like, oh man, my head is feeling so much better. Like
Finally.
so much relief. So, but yeah, that was what happened with the seizure. So,
and your husband is a EMT, a firefighter, right? So he probably responded quickly.
Yes, he responded quickly, but it's also different when it's your own. So when it's somebody else, when you're on the job and it's somebody else and you have the equipment, you have the tools, you know what to do. But when it's somebody of your own, you kind of freeze in the moment. So all he could do was rely on his partners that came from Station 6 to help me because he didn't have anything at that time. But besides keep me on my side and keep me from hurting myself. So that was a hard situation for him.
I'm sure. And then you're having a baby, so that even increases the concern.
Yes.
Okay, so they fly you to Lubbock. You wake up. Tell me more about what happened when you got to Lubbock.
Yes.
At the hospital.
So when I got to Lubbock, I can't really remember exactly what happened. I just remember they taking me to the MRI room, and they told me I had to get an MRI done, but I couldn't get an MRI with contrast because of the pregnancy. It does something to the baby, so all they could do was give me a regular MRI and basically guess what was going on with my head. So it made it difficult for the doctors to kind of assign me which doctor was going to be with me to figure out my issue. So I had many MRI scans done. And they were just trying to find a doctor to figure out who could resolve this issue. And that was on a Monday morning when that happened, when I got my MRI done. They finally put me into a room, Covenant Medical Center. And then they scheduled an ER doctor scheduled me to have an angiogram done the following morning. So on Tuesday morning. So an angiogram is just like a little camera that they put in your artery, and they shoot dye into it to figure out where the problem is. And it gives them a more clear picture of what's going on, since I wasn't able to have the contrast with my MRI. So I had the angiogram done on Tuesday morning, and you're awake for that procedure. They have you on a lot of medications. You don't feel it, of course. But the doctor in there, he told me that it was not a brain bleed, which they originally thought it was. But of course, they weren't sure. So he told me it's not a brain bleed, but it's a brain tumor. So once he confirmed that it was a brain tumor, of course I was scared and started crying. I went back I'm sorry, they didn't put me in the hospital room, they had me in an ICU room.
Okay.
So they took me back to the ICU room, and we kind of waited there, and they finally assigned me a doctor. His name was Dr. Scrin, and he's a brain surgeon, and he came in later that day, because they finally assigned me a doctor, and he told me that everything was going to be okay, that he wanted to get in there and get it out. So at that point, I kind of felt like I had like an overwhelming sense of peace come over me, because I knew Father Yod put me here.
It's okay.
Father Yod put me here and helped me get pregnant to carry this child for a reason.
Amen.
So I knew I wasn't going down. I was supposed to be here. She was supposed to be here for a reason. And that's what I held on to. So he got me through this mental challenge. But honestly, just knowing that I had a child to take care of was my goal. And I knew he put her here for a reason. And I had to do everything in my power to protect her. So, with that being said, he told me that he could do outpatient surgery 3 months down the road, but I told him that I just wanted to get it done and over with. And he said, okay, he can schedule me for that following Monday. So it was January 23rd. We had brain surgery scheduled.
Was this a week later, Sarah?
Yes. So I went in on Monday, January 14th, and that following Monday, we were prepping for surgery.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you have a strong support system for sure there with you.
Yeah, I could not have done it without my husband and my parents. My parents have taught me a lot to have a lot of faith. They fasted for me. They prayed for me constantly. They were with us 100% of the way. My husband's family came down. They supported us. They were there for us on 100% of the way. But in all reality, I would have never been able to get through this if it wasn't for my faith and my background of having a belief in our Father.
Amen. And I get chills just thinking about everything you prayed for and your faith, just knowing God didn't put me here.
Yeah.
Not to have this baby that I prayed so much. So, oh my gosh. Okay, so take us after you have your surgery. I'm sure you're thinking about the baby and, praying for her.
Leading up to the surgery, we had to stay in the hospital. We weren't able to be released. So it was kind of boring in a sense. I ended up getting released from ICU on, I want to say it was Wednesday afternoon. And they actually put me into a more spacious room and more quiet. When you're in ICU, you don't have much privacy and there's a lot of people around you. When we moved to our room, it was a lot better. There was TV, you had your own bathroom, you can have visitors come in, as many as you wanted to. And with ICU, you were only allowed to have so many visitors at a time. So leading up to it was weird because people think, they would have anxiety, they would have like nervousness, they would be worried. And it was a moment of just peace. I'm not saying I didn't worry or have any doubts or anything like that, but I just kept clinging on to, I'm here for a reason. She's going to be here for a reason. And at the time, I didn't know it was a female. We were waiting for the gender. We're going to do a gender reveal. And, I was just thinking, there's a reason why my child is being brought into this earth. So let me figure it out. Let me guide her. Let the Holy Spirit walk me through this.
Amen.
To see what's going on. Sunday night, the day before surgery, my nurse came in, and the nurses were great at Covenant Medical Center. Sunday night, the nurse came in, and she's like, Dr. Stanton wants to get you into surgery as soon as possible. So anesthesiology is going to take you at 6, but I had to take like a medical bath shower before they took me, and I had to use like this medical grade soap. It didn't have like any scent to it or anything like that. And I had to wash my hair. I had to wash my whole body with it. And we had to do that. I think it was like 2 hours prior. So, but of course I was up all night thinking about it. She came in and woke me up at 2, and I had my shower at 2:30, and we kind of just waited there until they came and got me. So we waited there for a long time. They didn't get me at 6. We waited until 10, and you can't eat before surgery.
No.
You have to have an empty stomach. Well, when you're pregnant, all you want to do is eat. And, and you're hungry, you're eating for 2. So I was like, oh my gosh, I want to eat so bad. And so they finally came and got me. They let me take my husband, my sister, my mom, my dad to the back room for for the anesthesiologist to talk to me about what's going to happen. At that point, the nurse was like, we can do a Doppler on the baby to see if we can hear a heartbeat, because at this point, we only had one OB come in and check the heartbeat, but we weren't told anything, and this was prior to Sunday. But the OBs weren't really allowed to talk to us about anything about the baby because we were there specifically for a different issue. So we were kind of going blind as to if the baby was okay, what was going on. So when they pulled out the Doppler, she was trying to find a heartbeat, and we couldn't find one. So of course I started freaking out. And anesthesiologist, he was really nice, super nice guy. He comes in and he tells the nurse, "What are you guys doing? You're not going to be able to hear a heartbeat on the outside this many weeks early, because you can't hear it from on the outside. So if in order to hear the heartbeat, you would have to go through a different way to hear the heartbeat." So I was kind of a little upset at first, but I understood, well, at that point I was going into 9 weeks being pregnant, and, it was still too early to hear the baby's heartbeat on the outside. So it was a little discouraging, but I knew, I was like, there's nothing wrong with the child. Everything's going to be okay. So at that point, the anesthesiologist kind of calmed my nerves, and he's like, "You're going to go to sleep, you're going to wake up, and everything's going to be great." And I said, okay. And they had to put I can't remember exactly what the IV was called, but it basically goes into one of your arteries, and it was the worst pain I've had.
Oh my gosh.
And they had to put one in when I first arrived in Lubbock, and they put lidocaine shots in my arm, but that did not do anything.
Oh no.
It was terrible. So they have to place your hand in a stent to keep your hand like backwards, like pushed back, because the IV can't bend, because it basically monitors your heart rate with that.
Okay.
So the anesthesiologist said, we have to put another one in because the other one was old. It's been in there for weeks, so we have to put another one in. And I just remember telling him, can you please make sure I'm under before you put another one of those things in, because that was the worst pain. And he goes, don't worry, we're not going to touch you until you're asleep. And I said, praise y'all, because
Amen.
I could not handle that again. So, but that was the prepping before the surgery.
Okay. So that was the evening. Oh no, that was the day of. That was that Monday, right?
Yeah.
So you have the surgery. After surgery, were you under for several days, or were you
No,
able
so,
to wake up right after?
yeah, so, we went in for the surgery. I don't know how long the surgery was. I thought it was just a quick, easy in and out, but apparently it doesn't work like that. My husband and all my family and friends that were there waiting for me to get out of surgery, they said it was the longest day that they've ever had.
Oh, I imagine.
They were sitting there pacing, waiting to hear updates. My husband, the nurse said that she was going to text him with updates every 2 hours or something like that, and he was checking his phone constantly, and then a couple minutes passed over the 2 hour mark and he still hadn't heard anything, so he was getting upset because he didn't get an update, and then like a couple minutes later she ended up calling him to give him an update, so he felt better at that. I remember, so after the surgery, I woke up, they put me back in ICU because they had to monitor me for, it was 48 hours.
Okay.
And, I remember waking up and my head was just pounding. It was worse than the headache that I had before. And I was just thinking like, oh gosh, I'm back with this headache again, but it's 10 times worse. And that was obviously because I had a bunch of stitches in my head and I just got done going through 4+ hours of brain surgery. But in my mind, I'm thinking like, why is it so painful? I still couldn't eat and I couldn't drink anything because apparently I was throwing up after coming out of anesthesia. So they had to monitor me for that. And they had to intubate me when I went under. So my throat was so sore.
Oh no.
Remember, like you're awake, but you're not fully awake. If that makes sense.
Okay.
So it was dark. And, I remember the TV was blurry. Don't remember what was on. And I just look up and I see my dad and he's looking over me. And I'm like, and he's like, you can't have any water. And I said, my throat hurts. So I remember him asking the nurse to get me if I could have water. And she said, no, but I can give you ice chips, but I can only give you a couple at a time. So every time she left the room, I would have my dad get me more ice chips because he wasn't giving me enough. He was feeding me ice chips illegally when I wasn't supposed to be having any. So that was the worst part about coming out of the surgery and like fully waking up was I just remember everything hurting. But the next day, I think I finally fell asleep and like kind of recovered. And the next day I woke up and I was actually feeling better. I can actually eat, was drinking water, and me and my personality and the strength that I've received from Father Yah was to just be motivating, just to get up and like to do it. But, you know, be a go-getter. I've always been like that. And the next day I wanted to get up and I wanted to go. Like okay, are we done? Let's get out of here. You know, I wanted to
I could see you doing that.
I wanted to start my life again. I wanted to be excited that the baby was coming. I wanted to get home. I wanted to start getting her room ready and getting things done. At that point in time, in my mind, I was like, okay, we're done. We're done with me. Let's go. It's all about this baby that's coming into this world. But I was not allowed to walk yet
Okay.
until physical therapy came. but physical therapy never showed up.
Oh my gosh.
I had to go to the bathroom a couple times, and the nurse said, well, you can't go to the bathroom like the one that they had in the room in the ICU. You have to go on the bedside one. And I'm like, no, I want to get up and I want to use the bathroom like a normal person. And she's like, no, not till physical therapy comes. And I'm like, okay. Well, my husband, having the background that he has, he knows how to unhook things and hook them back up together. So when she left the room, I was up and at it. So that same day, evening time, Dr. Stanton came in and he's like, have you tried walking? Have you, done anything? And I said, no, because physical therapy won't let me walk. Or, I'm sorry, the nurse won't let me walk until physical therapy comes, and they haven't showed up yet. And he's like, well, let's try walking. And I'm like, okay, well, you're the doctor, so I'm going to just do what you say. So he gets the nurse, and she comes in, and she takes me off some stuff and brings a little IV machine. And there I go, walking down the hallway. It was slow at first getting out of bed, but once I got into the hallway, I was on a mission. And I wanted to show them, and I wanted to show everybody else that I did this. I prevailed. The Father made me prevail. He told me, let's get it done, and let's go. Let's get ready for this baby to come back, to come into this world. And so I was walking that afternoon, and then again that evening. And then the next day, well, I asked the doctor that night, I said, can I get out of ICU and can I go home? And he's like, no. He's like, we have to monitor you for at least one more night, and then we have to send you to a regular room upstairs, and they have to monitor you for one more day. And then we can talk about going home. So I'm like, okay. So I stayed another night in the ICU. The next morning, the morning nurse comes in and she's like, are you ready to change rooms? And I said, yes, let's go.
Thank you for joining us for part 1 of Sierra's remarkable journey. We've witnessed her strength and faith as she faced a life-altering diagnosis while carrying her precious child. But there's even more to her story. In part 2, Sierra reveals how her journey continued through treatment, faith, and the miraculous arrival of her baby. Don't miss it as we uncover the next chapter of her powerful testimony. Until then, stay blessed and keep believing.